All right, so you know the drill. You send us the sources, and we're diving in deep to pull out all the interesting stuff.
That's right. Hopefully something that'll spark some great conversations.
Yeah, exactly. And this one, I think, definitely fits the bill. We're looking at a ranking of the 10 greatest Best Picture winners of the last 25 years.
Ooh!
Yeah, so we're talking films from 2000 all the way up to 2024.
Okay, so a good chunk of time there.
Exactly. And you know, it's interesting looking at this list because you've got these huge blockbuster films and then some really powerful indie darlings.
Right, showing how there's no one formula for what makes a Best Picture winner.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to try to figure out today. Like, what did this source see in these films? What made them stand out?
Yeah, and maybe get you thinking about what you consider the best of the best.
Right, so let's jump right in with number 10, the most recent winner, actually, Honora from 2024.
Okay, so a film that's still fresh in our minds. I'm curious what makes it already one of the greatest.
Yeah, the source mentions its Palme d'Or win, which is, nothing to sneeze at.
Definitely not.
But it also says there was a somewhat controversial reaction to its Best Picture win.
Interesting. So right out of the gate, we've got some debate.
Yeah, makes you wonder, is there some recency bias at play here?
Could be. It's hard to say, but the source does point out this really interesting thing about Honora's genre.
Oh, yeah.
How it kind of shifts throughout the film. It starts almost like a modern fairy tale. It even draws a comparison to Pretty Woman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then it veers into thriller territory. Then there's some comedy thrown in, and ultimately it lands as a character drama.
Wow. So it's really all over the place tonally.
Yeah, and you can see how that would be divisive for some people, even while others find it really innovative.
Right. For some, it might feel disjointed, but for others, it might be this really exciting, unpredictable ride.
Exactly, and the source seems to fall into the latter camp. They praise the writing Sean Baker's direction, and especially Mikey Madison's performance, calling her Oscar win very well deserved.
So even with the controversy surrounding its win, there's clearly something special about this film.
It definitely raises that question, though, how much time needs to pass before we can truly judge a film's greatness?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Oh.
Okay, moving on to number 9. We've got a film that feels like a true classic of the early 2000s. Gladiator from the year 2000.
Ah, yes, a historical epic, a genre that doesn't get quite as much love these days.
Right. It's like we're almost nostalgic for the time when these big sweeping films dominated the Oscars.
Yeah, you don't see that kind of scale and ambition as often anymore.
And the source really highlights that Gladiator is an essential action movie of the 2000s. They even mention the show-stopping action set pieces and just amazing production qualities.
Oh, yeah, those Colosseum scenes are iconic. I mean, visually, they were just stunning.
Yeah, but what I think is interesting is that those big spectacle moments were also paired with some truly phenomenal performances.
Absolutely. The source calls out Joaquin Phoenix's Oscar-nominated role and, of course, Russell Crowe's winning performance.
And let's not forget Ridley Scott's direction. He really brought that world to life.
He did, and that combination of visual spectacle and compelling characters, that's what creates something truly lasting.
Right, and the source points to Gladiator's enduring entertainment value as proof of that.
Yeah, it's a film that people keep coming back to even all these years later.
Okay, switching gears completely. Now, at number 8, we have Moonlight from 2016.
Oh, wow. A film that's become almost synonymous with that Best Picture mix-up.
Right. And the source makes a point of saying that it's far, far more than just that fiasco.
Yeah, that moment definitely overshadowed what was a truly historic win.
Absolutely. The source emphasizes that it was the first LGBTQ plus film with an all-black cast to win Best Picture.
And a huge win for A24 as well.
Yeah, a really significant moment in film history.
Definitely. And beyond that historical importance, the source describes Moonlight as this gorgeous coming-of-age film, and they really emphasize that beauty on multiple levels, visually, narratively, and even through its score.
I love how they call out the score, because it is so evocative. It really adds another layer to the film's emotional impact.
It does. And speaking of emotional impact, what really strikes me about Moonlight and what the source touches on is its incredible tenderness and relatability.
Yeah, you really connect with the characters on this deep human level, regardless of your background.
Right. And the source points out that it avoids what they call trauma porn tropes, which is a crucial distinction.
It's not about exploiting the character's pain. It's about showing their strength and vulnerability in a really authentic way.
Exactly. And the source even mentions the satisfaction of seeing a smaller film like this take home the top prize. It's a reminder that impact doesn't always come from a massive budget.
Yeah, sometimes the quietest stories are the ones that stay with you the longest. Okay, moving on to number 7, we have Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, from 2014.
Oh, Birdman, a film that earned Alejandro González Iñárritu a pretty rare triple win.
Yeah, Best Director, Original Screenplay, and Best Picture.
Yeah.
It's not an easy feat.
Definitely not. It speaks to a really unique vision, and the source highlights Michael Keaton's performance, calling it masterful and Oscar-worthy.
Oh, yeah, and let's not forget the film's really biting meta-commentary on the entertainment industry.
Right. That was so key to the film's success. It's about an actor famous for playing a superhero, and it's constantly blurring those lines between reality and fiction.
And the way it was shot to look like one continuous take just amplified that sense of unease and artistic desperation.
It really did. You felt like you were trapped in the protagonist's headspace as it was all kind of falling apart.
And the source calls it gleefully experimental and playful, but then also acknowledges this undercurrent of darkness.
Yeah, it's a film that manages to be both funny and unsettling at the same time.
And it's fascinating that the source positions Birdman as one of the best comedies to win Best Picture.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they praise the ensemble cast and that really daring camera work. It really pushed the boundaries of what a Best Picture could be.
It definitely wasn't your typical Oscar bait.
No, it wasn't all right. At number 6, we encounter a film with a much more serious and historically important topic. 12 Years, a Slave, from 2013.
And a film that the source calls gut-wrenching yet vitally important, with impossible to overstate historical relevance.
Yeah, and the fact that it's based on a true story from the antebellum South gives it that much more power.
Absolutely. It's a particularly significant winner in the biopic category because it's shining a light on this really dark period in American history.
Right, and the source points out that it actually won fewer Oscars overall than some of the other films on this list.
That's interesting.
But they emphasize that the wins, it did get adapted screenplay, and Lupita Nyong'o's incredible performance were absolutely deserved.
Yeah, sometimes a film's impact goes beyond the awards.
Exactly. And the source talks about the beautiful filmmaking, even though the subject matter is so brutal, and those performances are just stunning beyond words.
It's a film that really stays with you long after you've seen it.
Okay, coming in at number 5, we have a groundbreaking win, Parasite, from 2019.
Ah, yes, the first non-English language film to win Best Picture. A real game changer.
It was a huge moment for international cinema, and the source highlights that it came from Bong Joon-ho, a director they consider a major figure in South Korean filmmaking.
And potentially his magnum opus.
Yeah, they even mentioned that it had already won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, so it had this critical momentum going into the Oscars.
It did, and the source describes Parasite's social commentary as pretty direct, maybe even not subtle, but very effective.
Right, it tackles issues of economic inequality and power structures head on.
And what's so brilliant about Parasite is how Bong Joon-ho uses genre to deliver that commentary. It blends dark comedy, thriller, and even horror in this really masterful way.
You're constantly on edge because you don't know what's coming next.
Yeah, and that feeling mirrors the unstable power dynamics that the film is exploring.
The source even calls out the clever symbolism and the central relationship between the Kim and Park families, which really drives home that commentary on class.
It's a film that's both wildly entertaining and thought-provoking. A really rare combination.
All right, moving on to number 4, a film that really embraces that multifaceted nature, Everything Everywhere All at Once, from 2022.
What a film, adventurous, humorous, philosophical, and entertaining all at the same time.
Yeah, the source describes it as one of the most unpredictable comedy movies ever made, and you know what? I don't think they're wrong.
The synopsis alone is just a mind-blowing. Existentialism, martial arts, generational conflict, immigration, taxes, laundry, everything, bagels, you name it.
It sounds like it shouldn't work, but it does.
Yeah, and the directing duo, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, they somehow managed to pull it all together.
The source talks about how they took this seemingly chaotic mix of elements and wove it into something truly special.
Right, with real heart and emotional depth, all within this framework of existential dread and absurdist humor.
And it's worth noting that they won Best Directing, making them only the 3rd duo to do so.
Yeah, a testament to their incredible skill as filmmakers.
The source sums it up as fun, funny, moving, and thought-provoking.
Could have said it better myself, all right. Moving into the top 3, starting with Oppenheimer from 2023.
Another recent winner that really dominated the Oscars, tying the previous year's total number of awards.
Wow, and the source even suggests it might be Christopher Nolan's best work, yet a real culmination of his style.
Yeah, it was a massive production with an incredible cast, and those visuals were just breathtaking.
Oh, yeah. Nolan is known for his visual storytelling, but this one really took it to another level.
But the source makes sure to point out that Oppenheimer isn't just about spectacle. It also has this emotional and thematic depth.
Right. The writing is incredibly strong, and the film really delves into the psychological and ethical weight of its subject matter.
It's a counter-argument to the idea that they don't make them like they used to.
Exactly. It's a film that's ambitious, intellectually engaging, and still manages to resonate with a wide audience.
All right, coming in at number 2, we have No Country for Old Men from 2007.
Now, this is an interesting choice, especially considering that Westerns and neo-noirs weren't exactly the hottest genres at the time.
Right. The source even says they were considered dead, but then leave it to the Coen brothers to breathe new life into them.
They always have a knack for taking these seemingly outdated genres and making them feel fresh and relevant.
And often with their signature dark humor.
Absolutely. And the source describes No Country for Old Men as exploring the dangers of progress through the lens of these classic genres.
It's a unique way to frame it, and they also call it a unique, darkly humorous, irresistibly enthralling dramedy thriller.
Quite a mouthful, but I think it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's not your typical Oscar frontrunner, but it clearly struck a chord with the Academy.
And the source really praises the Coens' writing and directing, the visuals, the editing, and especially Javier Bardem's performance as Anton Chigurh.
Oh yeah, he won the Oscar for that role, and for good reason. That character was terrifying.
It's a testament to how strong storytelling and execution can elevate any genre.
And finally, at number 1, the film that this source deems the greatest Best Picture winner of the last 25 years, The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
The Return of the King from 2003.
A truly epic conclusion to an epic trilogy.
Yeah, the source actually starts by reminding us of Peter Jackson's background in cult horror, which makes the scale and success of this adaptation even more impressive.
Right. It's not exactly the kind of resume you'd expect for someone tackling such a massive fantasy project.
And they call it the culmination of the greatest fantasy trilogy in the history of cinema and one of the greatest films ever made.
High praise indeed.
And then they go on to say that it's virtually faultless and, despite its runtime, immensely entertaining.
It's a film that just completely immerses you in its world.
Yeah, and the source highlights the unparalleled production design, the world building, the cast. Everything is just top-notch.
And of course, it tied the record for most Oscar wins along with Titanic and Ben-Hur.
It's a cinematic event that really captivated audiences worldwide.
So there you have it, a deep dive into one source's ranking of the top 10 Best Picture winners of the last 25 years.
And what's really striking is the sheer variety of films represented, from smaller character-driven pieces to these massive epics.
It just shows how many different ways there are to make a great film.
And how those ideas about what makes a film great can change over time.
Right. There's no one formula for success.
And that brings us to our final thought for you. Considering this list and everything we've talked about, what aspects of filmmaking do you value most when you're thinking about what makes a Best Picture winner?
Yeah, what are your criteria? What films would be on your top 10 list?
We encourage you to think about the films that have really stayed with you and why they hold such a special place in your heart.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.